Everybody make a scene, trick or treat. Tell the neighbors gonna die of fright.
It's that sound. Everybody scream.
In this town of Halloween,
I am the one hiding under your bed. Teeth ground sharp and eyes glowing red.
I am the one hiding under your stairs. Fingers like snakes and spiders in my hair.
this is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Good evening, my fellow ghouls and goblins. Welcome to another exciting episode of Halloween Horror Show with me, your host, JD Lestrange. Well, we are counting down until Halloween, and we are on night 3. So, the first couple nights we've had a lot of fun. If you have missed out on them, please subscribe to my channel and check them out. You can also, again, hit the button on my page that will take you to my Instagram and my YouTube channel. These videos are mostly going to be posted on my YouTube channel. So, if you missed last night's episode and Sunday night's episode, they will be uploaded to YouTube. I suggest you check them out. Anyways, the first night we talked about one of my favorite home invasion movies, The Strangers. And I gave you some interesting facts about the movie. Last night, we talked about some of the underrated movies I think y'all should watch if you haven't seen them or haven't heard of them. You should check out the ones that I mentioned last night. Well, I'm kind of curious to know what my Halloween board says, aren't you? So let's check that out, shall we? What do we have for night 3? Let's see, can y'all see that? There we go. I'm just going to pull that. 3. Oops. Got a little tape right there. It's okay. Well, let's see what it says. What's tonight going to be about? Horror musicals. Well, let's talk about music. And before we get started, let me pick what horror musical that I am going to watch later on this evening as part of my 31 Nights of Halloween challenge. I think, where is it? Repo, Genetic Opera. If you haven't seen the movie, check it out. It's a great movie, great musical. It's a rocking goth opera, and it's freaking fantastic. Now you're probably wondering, JD, why Repo? Why not Sweeney Todd or Rocky Horror Picture Show? Well, those are great musicals. I mean, you cannot pass up Tim Curry's performance as Frankenfurter, or if you want the Johnny Depp as Sweeney Todd, which I like his version, but I prefer the Broadway. I mean, I do love Tim Burton's version of Sweeney Todd, but I also like the original version with Angela Lansbury. But while we're on the topic of music, let's talk about Halloween playlist and what's on your playlist, because I'm about to show you some of the stuff that I have on mine. Some of it's old stuff, some of it's new stuff, some of it I've talked about before. But here we go. Here are my top picks for my Halloween playlist. Here are my top 10 picks that I have on my Halloween playlist. Starting with number 10, Rob Zombie. Now, I like Rob Zombie. I have a couple of his songs on my Halloween playlist, such as Dragula and Living Dead Girl, and of course the House of a Thousand Corpses theme. He has made some good movies and he has made some bad movies. If you're not a fan of him, then I suggest you keep scrolling, because I think Rob Zombie is awesome, and he has had some flops with his movie making, but if I had to say one of my favorite movies by him, probably A House of a Thousand Corpses. Rest in peace, Sid Haig, aka Captain Spaulding. So, he's my number 10 on my playlist because his music is just fun to rock out to. So here is my number 9 pick, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, why is it number 9? It's a great soundtrack, don't get me wrong, and it's a great musical, even though the storyline is pretty stupid. I like it because of its cheesiness, and how can you resist singing along to the Time Warp? How can you resist singing along to a science fiction double feature? I mean, you have Tim Curry in drag, which this was his very first role, I believe. I think, if I'm not mistaken. And you have Susan Sarandon in the movie as the leading lady, as Janet. I mean, how can you resist the Time Warp? How can you not resist let's do the Time Warp again? I mean, it's just a jump to the left. Overall, this is one of my favorite soundtracks. And if any of these songs are not on your playlist, I suggest you add them. At least add Time Warp, please. Okay, number 8, Aurelio Voltaire. Now, I am a huge fan of Voltaire, and I love his music, especially the brand new album that he had just put out. I cannot stop listening to that album because I am a sucker for Labyrinth. May David Bowie rest in peace. But a few of the songs I have for my Halloween playlist includes Day of the Dead, both versions. When You're Evil. Of course, the song When I Said I Was Evil, King of Villains, because that song, I have that song on repeat because it's so chef's kiss. Because he mixes some of the Disney villain songs in with that song, and wow. First time I heard it, I'm like, wow. But yeah, of course, Brains. I have Brains on my Halloween playlist. I think I said Land of the Dead. And a funny story, his song Happy Birthday, My Old Friend. I actually play that on my birthday every year because my birthday is this month in spooky season. So it works out perfectly. Anyway, I am almost out of time for this video, so please stay tuned for part 2 of the next video. But yes, I have a bunch of other wonderful stuff. Zombie Prostitute, song makes me laugh every time. Cannibal Buffet, Headless Waltz, amazing songs, all on my Halloween playlist. So if you haven't heard of him, I suggest you check him out. Aurelio Voltaire, or Voltaire to most. So, yeah, stay tuned for part 2. So, I stopped with Voltaire as, I believe, number 8, if I'm not mistaken. So, if you get a chance, check them out. Okay, so this is my number 7th pick, but it is tied with the One Way or Another song from Hocus Pocus 2. Now, if I had to pick which one I like the most, we would go with I Put a Spell on You because it's more iconic and it's a classic, and that song has been done so many times, but Bette Midler takes the cake, even though really she can't outdo Annie Lennox, the Annie Lennox version, because that version is actually my favorite next to Screaming Jay Hawkins. But this is my number 7th song on my playlist. It's this and the One Way or Another song from the second film are neck and neck with each other. So both of them I put at number 7. So, of course, if you don't have this song on your playlist, where have you been? Number 6. I may not be that big of a fan of Marilyn Manson, but I must say, his version of Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, even though I do prefer the Eurythmics version, because the Eurythmics version is a classic, this one is iconic. If you've seen a lot of horror movies, you know this is usually in the intro or it's somewhere in the movie. But honestly, I think what he did was he brought some creepy vibes, and this has been the video for it is disturbing. So if you haven't seen it, sorry, my nose itches. This is usually the top most played music video during Halloween. So my number 6 song is Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, the Marilyn Manson version. Now again, I'm not really that big of a fan of Marilyn Manson, but I do like his take on the song. And I do like his take on This Is Halloween, but the original is iconic. But that is a different on this playlist, but a different. I think my number 5 pick is I just recently got into Ice Nine Kills. Sad, I know, right? Just like I recently got into Motionless in White. Again, sad, right? Honestly, I like Welcome to Horrorwood, but I like Silver Scream as well, because a bunch of those songs are iconic. But really, on this album, besides Welcome to Horrorwood, how can you resist Hip to Be Scared? I mean, that iconic line, do you like Ice Nine Kills? I mean, seriously, that whole little monologue he does in the climax of in the bridge of the song, I thought that was iconic. And then Assault and Batteries is another one of my favorites on this album. And of course, Silver Screams, that album is definitely iconic. So, to all my Ice Nine Kills fans out there, I definitely hope you have both of these albums on your playlist. Number 4. I just mentioned this song. I said it was going to be on this playlist. But I prefer the original version of the song. Now, don't get me wrong, Panic at the Disco's version was good. And I think there's another one, and then, of course, the Marilyn Manson one. But the original one is more iconic because you have Danny Elfman doing the singing voice of Jack Skellington. And I think that's why people like this one better. And I like it better, too, because I love the whole soundtrack. And an interesting fact, I actually have the soundtrack on CD, and I actually found it at a thrift store for $1. So the whole album is amazing, and props to Danny Elfman for writing and composing the music for this fantastic, fabulous masterpiece. Oh, and it's also the 30th anniversary. It's the 30th anniversary for Nightmare Before Christmas. So again, happy anniversary to Nightmare Before Christmas. Movie's iconic, and it is an absolute masterpiece. Chef's kiss. Now, I definitely have to give props for number 3 to my man, Alice Cooper, the godfather of shock rock. This guy puts on an amazing show from what I've seen on YouTube to what I've heard from people who've actually been to his concert. I mean, this guy is in his 70s, I believe, and he's still bringing out the big old guillotine, the giant Frankenstein monster, giant pythons, anacondas, having people doing straight jackets, electric chairs, all that. So iconic. So of course this guy's on my playlist because he is the godfather of shock rock. And Welcome to My Nightmare is definitely an iconic Halloween song next to The Man Behind the Mask and Poison, and of course Feed My Frankenstein and Teenage Frankenstein, all those iconic songs. So number 3, it's hard to pick an actual song by Alice because you actually have to listen to his songs because they're so iconic. So all of his stuff is on my playlist, on my Halloween playlist, because it's hard to pick one because he's the godfather of shock. So props to you, Alice Cooper. I hope you never retire, and I hope I catch one of your shows in the future. Alrighty, so down to 2 songs. This one was kind of hard to pick which one to put at the second place, and this one was hard to put at the first place. So I'm going to talk about this one really quick. Werewolf, Motionless White. First time I heard the song, wow. Fell in love with it instantly. Amazing. Especially since it is a nod to Michael Jackson. Which brings me to number 1. Always going to be number 1 on my Halloween playlist. Because how can anyone resist the Thriller? The evils of the Thriller. It's iconic. Rest in peace, MJ. Rest in peace. And here's the honorable mention, My Chemical Romance. Sorry I didn't put them on my list, but they are on my playlist, and they are honorable mentions, because as you can see, I am wearing the shirt, and I am a huge fan of MCR. Anyways, that is my show tonight. I hope you check out all these amazing songs, amazing artists, amazing bands. Update your Halloween playlist. Well, that's my show. Be sure to lock your doors. Make sure you close and lock your windows. Grab your crucifixes. Grab your your stakes and your silver bullets. And say your prayers. I bid you all a frightening good night. Till next time, my fellow ghouls and goblins.